Welcome to Jaunty Haunts, the podcast about all things supernatural. After 30 years of keeping a secret, I'm finally ready to share with the world that I see ghosts. Yep, I've been having conversations with the other side while trying to keep up appearances. This podcast is all about getting spooky and connecting with others who might also sense, see, or feel things beyond the ordinary. We'll swap true tales of the seen and unseen, and maybe even laugh about the weird stuff we've experienced. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, come join me as we explore the paranormal. Let's connect, share, and maybe feel a little less crazy together. Welcome to Jaunty Haunts. Hi listeners, welcome to episode 12. This week we are chatting with my BFF Shelby. Shelby and I grew up in Lake Tahoe together. We've been friends for over 25 years. She has felt like a sister to me for as long as I can remember. Shelby also has her own unique gifts and talents in relation to the spiritual world. She has always been extremely attuned to energy and has almost always been able to sense things that I could see for as long as I could remember. I feel very lucky to call her a friend and to have someone who understands me the way that she does. We were very obsessed with the spiritual world in high school and definitely had our trials of ghost hunting. We collected pretty solid EVP evidence, some remarkable photos, and experienced hauntings that neither of us will ever forget. So, this week we've got a part 1 and part 2 again. Because we had so many great stories to reminisce about, I wanted to make sure you guys heard all of them. Please check out Shelby and her amazing photography on Instagram at ShelbyScapes_photography or her website, www.shelbyscapes.com. She's got some incredible art and photography to explore, and hey, buy something while you're there. So let's dive into part 1 of episode 12. What ended up being quite a surprise and a fun addition to the episode was when I was in my hometown for the holidays last week. I stayed up late with Shelby, her little sister Shayla, and their boyfriends chatting the night away after decorating cookies. And we had a real-time encounter while recording. Shelby and I recorded our main interview early November, but last week while talking about specific experiences that happened in her house, suddenly the air in front of me became very, very cold, almost like ice. I've heard about things like this happening on TV shows and in books, but I've never experienced a drastic temperature change like this in real life. It was like a cylinder of freezing cold air was suddenly engulfing my hands. I moved back about a foot onto the couch and relaxed, and the cold air again was on my knees and my hands where I was sitting. I brought it up to the group, and at first they didn't feel it. I tried to forget it. I tried to shake it off and resituate my body in a way that was away from that area on the couch, but again, the tops of my thighs and legs became ice cold. I once again drew attention to it, and Shelby, my friend, felt it that time as well. In the recording of this, I have to be honest, it was the holidays and we definitely had a few drinks, so I apologize for our broken speech and silliness. We were definitely a little drunk, so yeah. Anyway, I think it's still cool to hear in real time. A haunting in Shelby's extremely haunted house. So, in lieu of a retelling of a personal experience, I'm going to play you this real-time strange experience that happened last week before we get into the interview with Shelby. You will hear Shelby's little sister Shayla addressing me quite a bit. On a personal note, I also think it's really funny to have Shayla, Shelby's little sister, featured before Shelby. So, listeners, please enjoy this real-time experience before we get into the interview with Shelby. Thank you so much for listening, you guys. Please enjoy the episode and have a happy, happy New Year.
Like host, I was like, she can't make it up and down the stairs. No.
What was that? Did you feel that?
It was the ghost.
No, I'm serious. Did you?
No, I didn't smoke
Did you
anything
feel
right
cold
now.
or?
My vape's right there.
A freezing, literally a freezing air.
No.
Courtney, you haven't been here in a while. They're like, hey girl.
No, am I by the bed?
We remember you.
My farts are usually warm. So,
No.
you know,
No, feel right here. Did you feel that?
Fireplace.
No. We don't have any fucking vents. We don't have drafts. So any vent you're feeling...
It's right there in front of you. The fireplace?
Ravi, don't scare it away.
Scare it away. I feel a difference right here. Yes. I moved there and now it feels here.
Courtney, with Courtney, because Courtney has been in our lives long enough that she herself has also experienced things in this house and doing shit. But her coming back and being the one person asking questions and being like, oh, well, like, what about this? What about that? Of course, all of us are already keen to being like, oh, yeah, it's nothing. Like, it's something. Like, yeah, I hear the pans bang in the fucking counter at night, but I don't say shit.
They don't hear us.
But Courtney's coming here with her mic being like, hey, what's going on? What's happening?
Okay.
It's gonna cause more.
To stop? We can stop.
No, I don't want you to stop. I'm just saying that the reason why I think they might be more inclined to Courtney is because Courtney's energy has already been here. Courtney's energy has already been. Honestly, it's the reason why I think Courtney might be getting a little bit more of being like, oh, I feel this, because Courtney, out of anybody here, you two included, she is the one that has been here through this shit. It has been Shelby, Courtney, and I. So if anybody's going to feel anything that doesn't feel comfortable coming up to Shelby and I, it would be Courtney.
That's what she does.
So I'm saying.
Listeners, what's up? I'm here with my longtime best friend, Shelby. We grew up together in Lake Tahoe. Shelby is also very connected and spiritual to the woo-woo, but I'll let her give a little introduction. Shelby, if you want to introduce yourself and just kind of tell us, you know, a little bit of background of your spiritualism and like what, if anything, you believe in.
Okay, hello, everybody. My name is Shelby. I grew up with Courtney, as she said, in Lake Tahoe. I have been seeing / feeling ghosts ever since I was a little kid. I'm not quite as intuitive as Courtney. I believe that I don't really surround myself with it as much as Courtney does. But certainly it's always around me. There's always different feelings. There's also just always different experiences waiting to happen if you're making yourself available to it. So, yeah.
That's great. That's a great way to explain that. Yeah. And it's funny. I think something I'm learning as I'm like just getting older and like learning more about this stuff too is like we feel like there's different like levels of intensity or like intuitiveness, but I think we all just have skills that like potentially lie in different areas. And I think you are so like strong, like with your like I always forget the correct term for it, but like sensory. Like I remember so many times we would like be going into a room or someone would come into a room or like, you know, something would shift and you would like look at me with that face, you know, like, oh, something's going on. Like you were always the one to like notice that energetic shift.
Absolutely. Yeah. So whereas you're a bit more cognitive in the way of seeing things a little bit more clearly, I guess. For me, it's definitely the energies and how I feel. And I remember as we were kids, like we would always look at each other and be like, I feel it in my chest. Like I feel it in my back. I feel it in my head. Like, and it was never a deniable thing for either of us. It was like, I would start feeling this thing and you'd turn around and you'd say the same exact thing. It was like, yep, okay. Like definitely very sensitive to those energies. And I think that those things have, when I do follow it, it has led me to some pretty fun and pretty spooky things, but also some kind of scary things. And so, yeah, I haven't been ghost hunting recently or anything like that, but I still have, you know, a few little experiences, but I've got plenty of things that we can talk about from the past. So,
my God, no. Yeah. It's so funny, like thinking about when we were little kids, like it was literally even when we were like 7 years old, like in second grade, that we would be like experiencing woo-woo shit or thinking like we felt something or we see something. And I think as little kids, we would like maybe turn it into like a game or make it a character or something. But like there were so many like weird times. Like, okay, this is going to sound so crazy, right? But like, do you remember like pretending to do like, I say pretending, but I still kind of believe it. Like with Shayla outside, her being on the slide, like her being in the sandbox and on the slide and us being like, fall, and then she'd like fall.
I remember that little things like that. I don't know if we were more so like
just waiting,
reading into a situation and going like, oh, she's clumsy, like she's about to go down, like let's make it feel like we did that.
Yeah.
But it also might be like the older sister who's more mature now, thinking that I wouldn't want to hurt my little sister, but who knows? I mean, we could have just been mean little kids.
Yeah, I guess. But there were so many times you'd be like, I've been practicing, like, watch, let's see if we can do it. And then she'd just be like walking around and playing with the doll, and we'd be like pointing like our fingers were like wands, like that, like stereotypical witch point, and being like like trip or fall or like look down or look up, and then like occasionally she would. And it was like that scene in that show Pen 15, if you've seen it, where they're like, we're witches, yes, ah!
I have not seen that, but no, you're bringing back memories that I didn't know I had, but I do remember those very specific things. I think for the most part, we were so young, but we still had this idea of whether or not it was spirits, ghosts, things like that. We had this idea that nobody taught us of energies and feelings and whatever it might be. And so I think that's why throughout my entire life, I've never denied that those things existed, because as a child who wasn't taught these things, it wasn't like I was reading books about it, or it's not like we went on the internet and found it and watched videos. It was just something that we naturally just felt. And especially when the two of us were together, it was always so much more amplified.
Right. Yeah, and I remember even like not only not being told about it, but being actively warned against it. Like, especially like with your mom being like, what are you guys talking about? Or like, that's weird, don't do that. Or like, you know, even like my mom being like, what are you guys talking about? Being like, we know we have powers, or like whatever. But like, you know, I think every little kid like plays witch at some point, but I think it definitely got more severe as we started to experience like very undeniable like spiritual visitations and things like that. So I'd love to chat now, if you're comfortable with it, maybe just a little bit religion, but basically your introduction to it, your intense relationship with it, and a little bit about like where you're at now with it.
Sure. I don't know that I've done enough work to really understand where I am at now currently with it.
Yeah.
It's so for those who are listening, grew up with a very Catholic mother. She had us doing the First Holy Communion and the confession and the what's it called? Confirmation, all of that stuff. And as a kid, I really didn't understand it a lot. I was going to the Sunday school classes. I was doing the extra things. I was an altar server, which means that during the Mass, you help the priest with different tasks. You bring them books, you bring them the Eucharistic minister, all these different things. And so I was very involved within the church, yet I never really felt a connection to it. It was just very much something that I did because my mother wanted me to do it. And I understood that the main gist of things was be a good person and live the way Jesus lived, and, you know, be good to your neighbor, all of those different things. But the funny thing was, when it came to ghosts, spirits, apparitions, things like that, those energies, that's what I felt as an undeniable truth. Those were things that I could not deny I felt. Now, when I went to church and things like that, I was envious of the people, especially even now, in my older life, when things go wrong and everything's just kind of coming to a head and all of these things. I know that my mom always turned to God or Jesus or whoever to kind of light her way, and she always just had that, he's got me. He's got me, it's okay. And I think that is the really beautiful aspect of religion. People who can really put their faith in God, Jesus, all of that in order to know that everything's going to be okay. And I guess I started fighting against that as a teenager, saying like, why do I have to go to church? I started really, really seeing the hypocrisy of especially the Catholic Church within everything that was going on. And I was being told to be a good person at the same time that I was told not to speak to or have anything to do with certain groups of people, things like that. And so it very much became, I don't feel this. I'm being told that I should. I feel like I'm being forced into this. And at that point in time, I was not seeing the beautiful side of it. I was not seeing the side of, oh, this is what it can do for you spiritually, emotionally, all of these different things. And at that point in time, that was when we got into a lot of arguments over whether or not I was going to go to church, over whether or not I was going to what I really truly believed in and everything. And for me, like, I definitely still believe that there are higher beings, entities, things like that. I do believe that Jesus Christ walked this earth. But I don't believe in the specific things that a lot of, I guess, Catholics specifically believe in. And it's funny because I think that, and this is just my view, I'm hoping I'm not offending anybody out there, but I think that a lot of people cherry pick religion, and 100%. They don't encompass it as a whole. My mom is a good example. She doesn't like the Old Testament.
Right.
She says, "Oh, I don't like the Old Testament. That God was a mean God." Like and I'm like, but that's the first half of the Bible. Like, that is what happened. I mean, God asked a father to kill his son. There's specific things in the Bible that are really grotesque and quite mean and in my word, manipulative.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I still am today. I still have a spiritual sense to things. I still believe that there is higher powers out there, powers that be, things that have more control over things than we may have. But I can't specifically say that I've ever really reconciled my relationship with God or with Jesus, or however you want to put it. Not in the way that my mother would like me to, unfortunately. Right. And I will always be open to listening to it. I will always be open to hearing what is out there to be said. And again, there's very beautiful aspects of it. But unfortunately, my experience with more or less being forced to attempt to believe in this has left a sour taste in my mouth still to this day.
Hi, this is Brian O'Connor.
And I'm Michael Duran.
Horror fans, it's time to get your fix with Opening Kill, the new podcast where we dissect everything terrifying in the world of horror.
From the latest movie news to an in-depth look at a feature film and a peek at chilling horrors to come, we've got you covered.
Whether it's gore, suspense, or supernatural thrills, Opening Kill is the ultimate horror deep dive.
Listen to Opening Kill on your favorite podcast platform every Thursday, if you dare.
That was so beautifully said, Shelby. Thank you so much. Like, I didn't know either about. I just love hearing into your brain with this, because I didn't know about the stuff of you being young and almost feeling a little envious of the people who were experiencing maybe this deeper connection with this God or Jesus, and how the comparison of you actually experiencing other spiritual things and feeling that disconnect there. That's so interesting. Like, I can't thank you enough for sharing into that. And it makes a lot of sense. Like, it makes so much sense, right? Because you were seeing, hearing, feeling, experiencing other things. And it's like, also the church and religion was like, well, no, that's not real.
Yeah, it's so quickly discounted. And I remember, like, because my dad is, he grew up Lutheran, but he wasn't heavily involved in the church. So it was funny being with a very religious mother and a dad who was kind of, he believes in God, absolutely. But again, he doesn't put it in the same parameters as my mom did. And so when I told him about the ghost stories, he just kind of looked at me with a smirk. And he knew. My dad has always been sensitive. He has lots of stories as well, things like that. But my mom was always just like, no, we don't like that. And her thing that she has said to me is she just doesn't like the idea that somebody is stuck here. She doesn't like the idea that somebody doesn't get to go to heaven and doesn't get to experience what all Catholics and all religious people hope is heaven and paradise and peace and all of those things. And I can absolutely understand that. That's something that I will always be understanding about, I guess. And I get that she doesn't like that, but like, there's been times where things have happened in my house where she's kind of looked a little bit more scared than she really wanted to let on. So I think, to a certain extent, I think she's seen things that she can't describe logically. And it's funny to have those moments with her every once in a while. But she will always keep to that. There's no such thing, because everybody either goes to heaven or hell.
Oh my gosh.
So it's an interesting
dichotomy.
Dynamic in the house, because you've got 3 people who believe fully in ghosts, and then you've got one who doesn't want to. I'm not going to say that she doesn't necessarily, because of a few things she's experienced, but she doesn't want to, for sure.
That's great. I would love to curve that into specifically talking as much, again, as you're comfortable with about your house, because I'll just explain a little to the listeners that Shelby's home, her childhood home that her parents and family still live in, is a beautiful, gorgeous, quaint, amazing little home in Tahoe. It's immaculately clean. It always smells of vanilla. Some of my best childhood memories are at this house. But this house is haunted. And like, I don't know if we've ever discovered exactly with what, because we've seen and experienced so many different kinds of spiritual activity. Like, do you remember your first or earliest sort of thing you experienced in the house?
Yes.
Oh.
That was when we first moved into the house. So I would have been 4, maybe 5. And the biggest thing was, I remember every night when I would try to go to sleep, there was a lady. It was just shadow. It was not corporal in any way. It was just like a silhouette, a shadow, as if it was passing by. There was a lady that would just stare at me.
Oh.
And I remember I was so scared of her. And I remember I would lay there in bed and I would start sweating because I was trying so hard to be still. My muscles would be so tight that I would start sweating because I was just restricted that entire time. And I would lay like that basically until I exhausted myself and went to sleep. That's when I started introducing night lights, things like that.
Yeah.
And after a while, I stopped seeing her. But that was definitely the first experience of many that we've had there. So, can you remember a specific one, or like one of the first ones where you're like, "Oh no, here we go."
that I remember.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, yeah. I don't have it at the ready. I have a couple, but that's crazy that you literally saw a woman. I don't know why I don't remember that. I remember you telling me about how you would like lay still so like spirits wouldn't get you, but I didn't know it was specifically like of a woman and like right when you moved in. And
that's the thing. So remember, you would always see something or feel something in the corner next to the door.
Yes.
But that's not where that lady was. Where the lady was the right side of the window.
That's what I was thinking when you were saying
the TV and things.
Oh, I'm getting chills. That's where I pictured her when you were just saying the story. That
is exactly where, and she always in the same spot, things like that. And of course, even as a little kid, like I would always try to debunk things.
Yes.
So I remember one night, like I was so over it and I was getting chills and I was just like, you know what? Like I'm going to walk over there. Like I'm going to do it. And like, I just remember feeling so nervous. I wanted to throw up and I was just like, let me see what's going on. And like, I walked over there and I moved the curtains and the blinds and like, I moved the stuff on the dresser, trying to see if it was like some weird shadow that was happening, all of this stuff. The whole time I'm shaking and like sweating, and went back and I didn't see her after that. I felt it, and I never moved anything that made me go, oh, that's what that shadow was. Oh, It was this candle that was reflecting this weird dome across it, or anything like that. And the only thing that I can say that I felt that I now know, which I didn't know when I was that small, was I feel like it was a spirit of a Native American woman.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was something I was going to bring up, which is, I know it's kind of a taboo thing to talk about because everybody says, oh, it's an Indian burial ground, it's a, whatever. But like, I truly do think, because our Lake Tahoe was originally land that the Washoe tribe had. It was their land, before settlers came over and everything. And there are still reservations near Lake Tahoe. But anyway, even down to the street names that we're on, it's like Cheyenne, Paiute, Cherokee, Arrowhead.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We not only that, but we found arrowheads.
Yes.
As we were digging up things. I remember specifically in second grade, my parents were digging in the yard to plant some trees, and they found bones.
Right.
And
wait, they found? Wait, you say
like,
bones?
Okay, what is this? Huh?
Did you say bones?
Bones, yes. And it looked like I couldn't really tell what it was, but at the time, my first grade teacher, her husband was a doctor. And so I took it to her and I said, hey, can you ask your husband what this is? And she was like, oh, of course. And she came back and she's like, oh, this is a cow bone. This is part of a cow's, I think, skull or something like that.
Uh-huh.
So definitely, like, the land is definitely not, I don't necessarily think it was a burial ground or anything like that, but I think that's where all of the hauntings came from. And our mutual witch friend also described it as basically
a portal
or a passageway. And I think that's why a lot of the times it wasn't just one specific ghost that we saw. It was a lot of different things happening at a lot of different times. And I remember specifically a lot of the times the hauntings would get worse in the springtime for whatever reason. I don't know what it was. So there was something that had to do with the springtime. I don't know if it's like the rebirth of the earth, things like that. But I definitely think that it was that Native American energy that really sparked up all of the other energies that maybe came through the house.
Yeah, it's so interesting because your house and that area has always been such an enigma of like, what is this? You know, like I can't put my finger on it. It's not like, oh, Uncle Phil died in that bedroom and that's him. It's like, no. And that's why, again, I think your house was so interesting because it's like just proves like, you know, two things can be true, right? Like your house is the most comfortable and amazing, beautiful home, but there's also like these random spirits always coming in and out of here. I think my first memory of seeing stuff in your house was just also seeing shadow figures, specifically in the hallway.
Yes.
Your hallway, you know, we all know. And I'm remembering. Hold on. Specifically, I remember there's that place between your dining room and kitchen as you look down the hall, right? Mm-hmm. And I saw some shadow figures. And then at the time you had, I don't remember if you guys have renovated and changed it, but you know, the laundry doors that like folded, like woo, 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 woo.
Yeah, those are still there. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And like it just pulled open a little bit. And I was like, oh, there it is. Like that confirmed. Oh, yep. Mm-hmm. And I remember like even every time I'd spend the night, like the first couple times I slept over, it would be like brushing our teeth and then like running to your bedroom. So we like weren't in the hallway. And I think the first time I brought it up to you was because Kaylin and I had talked about this character we made up called the guy who lived in the mountain when we were 7, of like, he's a bad guy. He lives up there and he tries to hurt us and he sends magic and he blah, blah, blah. And I was like, do you think that might be happening like here? Like, do you think the guy could ever come here and like move stuff? And then I think that's kind of what opened the conversation to be like, well, no, I don't think it's the guy, but I saw like a lady, you know, I think you told me about that. And I think that created a whole new, number one, level to our friendship to be like, oh my God, okay, we can actually talk about this. But also like
I'm not going to judge you for this at all.
Right. But also like the journey of like, okay, wait, what's in Shelby's house? I would love to talk about, still to this day, the story that scares people out of their assholes. of the first EVPs that we got in your bedroom.
Yeah, that was surprising.
Yeah.
So, that was not something that I was truly too... I mean, because we were watching the ghost shows. We understood what we were supposed to do, like keep the room quiet, make sure. And I know that we were at the house alone. So we were like, okay, perfect time. We know that it's not going to be interference from my sister moving around, my dad, anything like that. And we were just recording on my laptop on a really crappy audio recording program. And I was like, okay, let's see how this goes.
Right.
And so, yeah, I remember, I know we got 2 different EVPs. The first one was, we were just asking questions. Are you here? I can't remember. I remember one of the answers that we got specifically. We asked how many of them, how many of you are there? And in this really weird, very high-pitched, strange voice, we just heard 6.
Yeah, 6.
And immediately, I'm getting chills just talking about
I am too.
that.
I always do.
Sorry?
No, I was saying I always do get chills too when I talk about this.
Yeah, and then there was one other one. I
remember.
You remember the question
I
we
do.
asked? All I remember was the answer.
We asked, "Do you want to hurt us?" And it said yes in a slow, gravelly voice. Yes.
But it was so deep. I remember it sounded like a man.
Yeah,
it wasn't like because the 6 was like it could have been male or female.
Right.
It was very
it was fast. It was hard to tell. Yeah.
And then I remember the yes was just yes, like just no questions asked. Like not was that what they said? It was just yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's when we got up and started doing some sort of something to try to cleanse the room. But at that time,
I remember
super witchy.
I remember we heard the 6 and we looked at each other and we were like a little excited, but also terrified. Like, oh my God. And then we heard, do you want to hurt us? And it was like, yes. And then like my throat dropped into my stomach. I was like, oh fuck. Like I'm too scared. Like, and I remember you being like, I have to show my mom this because she'll believe me. Like we have to show her. Like she can't not like deny this. Like it's we have vocal recording. And do you remember what she said when we showed her?
I do not.
She said, how did you guys make this? This is not funny. She got so mad, but she specifically was like, how did you guys make this? Like, this isn't funny. So even she heard, like, it's not like we were like making up like, oh, it kind of sounds like it. And it's like a breath. Like she heard the word and she got mad because she thought we were trying to like scare her.
Absolutely. And to this day, I wish that I could have saved those recordings. I mean, there's so many things. Again, like I said, in my life now, I'm not as active in the spiritual world, I guess. I'm not ghost hunting as often. I'm not trying to do the EVPs and things like that. But there were a few times then and then when I went up to Washington that I got full-blown proof. And I have no idea where that is now. And it's, again, outdated technology, things like that. I looked everywhere for the picture in Washington, which we'll tell that story eventually. Yeah. And I can't find it. But again, you're talking about.
See, I'm glad you said this too. No, I'm glad you said this because I was talking with Jordan about it, and he was like, "Oh yeah, are you gonna put that picture on the Instagram?" I'm like, "What picture?" He's like, "The one of the ghost in the window that Shelby has." And I was like, "I don't have that picture." And he was like, "Yeah, you showed it to me." I said, "I didn't show you that picture." And he was like, "Yeah, you did. You showed me the picture." And I was like, "Jordan, I did not show you that picture. I don't have it. I asked Shelby if she has it, and she said she would try to find it." And he was like, "Well, maybe it was a couple years ago." And I was like,
"See, that's so interesting." I looked through everything that I could. I looked through all of my old hard drives. I looked through old emails. I was like, "Oh, maybe Michael emailed it to me, or maybe I emailed it to Courtney, or maybe I did something like that." And I am still going to continue searching for that photo because I can't find any of the photos from Seattle because that was the most impressive photo. That to this day is like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I caught that. But even just around everything else, I got orbs and what I believe was a ghost dog. And things like that. And I can't find it, which is so maddening because for the skeptics out there, you can't find it, huh? That's funny. You can't find it. And it's just like, believe in what you want to believe in. But
it was 13 years ago. Yeah. And then
I had it. So
yeah. And the EVPs we first did, I think we were just 14. Like we had just turned 14, which would be 16 years ago. So like, yeah, sorry, we don't have those.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't save that on my files on my computer from
the first laptop you ever owned.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Before we move on to the next thing, I want to ask you one more story about your house, if you remember. And this was like a really random one, so you might not, but there was one night that your house was popping off. And I don't remember what was happening, but I think we were either sophomores or juniors in high school, and we were home alone watching Shayla. And Shayla, you know, had just kind of started like becoming like a little mini preteen. Like she was like kind of, you know, growing up a little bit, and she was being way more open with the stuff that she saw, because Shayla also very much could see the things as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And would love to get her on one day as well. But there was one night that like, I just remember we all heard, it was like a horror movie. We heard a bang at the end of the hall, and we all looked, and you and I were sitting on like that like little love seat that used to be where your dad's chair was in the center. And Shayla was on the other couch, and she ran and jumped onto the thing with us and like was almost crying. Was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And we were like, what? Shayla, what? And she like wouldn't tell us. And we were like, you're trying to freak us out. Like, it was kind of weird. Like, is this playful? Is this actually scary? And then, okay, I'm getting chills. I hope you remember this because I feel so silly. But at the same time, we all looked up and we saw and felt the energy of like this like weird, like demonic looking bat kind of thing.
Bat, yes. Okay, I do remember this.
Oh my God. Okay, thank God. Yeah. And it was like above us, and like you were like, Court? And I was like, yeah. And you were like, do you see it? And I was like, yes. And Shayla started crying, and you were like, get the fuck out of here. Get out of here right now. And it was almost like I don't even know how to explain it. Like, we weren't young enough that we were hyping ourselves up. Like, we were driving by now, you know, like we were.
No, the other thing I remember was that my bird, Buttercup, she was freaking out.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
She was going. Yes. She was like flying around in the cage. I remember I was afraid she was going to hurt herself because she was just squawking and like flying in the cage erratically. And I was like, whoa, like calm down. Like, I don't remember what we did from there. I think we just ended up leaving the house. I think we just went outside.
Yeah, we like waited a second. It was like borderline winter. So like I remember I think it was around Halloween. It was either around Halloween or around springtime, because it was either like just beginning to snow or had just finished snowing, because there was just a little bit of snow on the ground, I remember. I think it was later, almost spring, because of spring. But yes, I think it was March. I think it was
too. For some reason, I have like the snow, like the dirty melted snow in the ground in my images.
Yeah, but like we like were telling it to get out, but there was also still activity happening down the hall. Like I feel like a door slammed or something very, again, like dramatic happened, where like a door slammed or something fell, or there was a bang against the wall at the end of the hall that we heard, that we were like, okay, let's get out. And we like literally walked outside and like just waited for a second. We called our mutual friend that you mentioned, and they were like, just wait a second, light a candle or whatever. Like, I don't even remember what they told us to do, but we kind of just like went back in, and then your parents just got home. And we were like, okay, I guess we just suppress this, because like we can't tell them, because like they never like do anything about it. And usually once they got home, the thing would settle down, whatever it was. But God, yeah, I just remember that being like, literally it felt like a horror movie. Like, what the fuck is this?
And that was when I think a lot of things were happening in the house that we had already been feeling. Yeah. That was kind of when it came to a head.
Right.
Because, I remember, again, every springtime, things would get a little bit worse. And I would be interested in hearing Shayla's version of this, how much of it she remembers as well.
Yeah.
But I do, and for some reason, I feel like we hid underneath the dining table.
I don't really remember that, but I can see that happening.
I don't know if it was a different time.
I was going to say, that might have been a different haunting. I was going to say, that might have been a different haunting.
Maybe, I don't know, but I would be interested in hearing, but I remember the bat wings. I didn't remember it up until you brought it up.
Yes.
But I do specifically remember that now. And I remember Buttercup freaking out and flying all over the place, and I remember taking her out because I was afraid she was gonna hurt herself.
I remember you like
trying to fly in the cage.
Yes, I remember you like holding Buttercup and like stroking her, and like look. I just remember the look on your face when you looked at me, like we're beyond our depth here. Like we're beyond
absolutely. We are way in over our heads.
Yeah, like what do we even begin to do? And I was like, I'm not I don't want to leave because like I want to protect you guys too, and like I just don't know what steps to take. And it was so hard to communicate with the spirits in your house because it was like I don't even know if they're from this like dimension. You know what I mean? Like it was just so strange.
Well, again, like there was the transient ones who would just kind of come and go or play like little tricks and things like that, and like the hallway ones. I don't think those were ever bad. I remember so specifically whenever I would sit there and I'd play piano, they would dance. I mean, literally, you would just see shadows just in the hallway, and I'd be home alone and things like that. But I would get chills. I would definitely get a little freaked out. But it was never something where I would like close the piano and run. It never felt like it was a malicious spirit of any sort. It just felt almost more of a residual energy. There was something there that was enjoying the music or whatever it might be. And that's just the strangest part about the house was there's just so many different energies, and maybe it was on a ley line, maybe it was just some sort of vortex portal thing like that. But I mean, I'm sure there's so many stories also that we've forgotten about.
I know. So there's one more that happened in your house I want to talk about for the listeners, which is the one and only time I ever astral projected.
Oh, yeah, I could tell that story too. Yep. Okay.
Oh my God. Well, why don't you tell it? That's fun. I want to hear if you remember.
Well, I have my own experience
of
astral projecting, but you were there.
Oh, wait. Okay, yeah, tell it. I want to hear yours.
So it was... It's so funny. I just saw on TikTok where it was like, oh, like, did everybody in the 90s have this day bed? And I was like, oh my gosh, like, it's the same exact one. And it had this trundle bed underneath. So for anybody who didn't know what those are, it's like a little bed that goes underneath the original twin bed and then it pops up. And so I remember you were spending the night one night, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and I thought I had to go to the bathroom, and so I got up, and I accidentally smacked against your bed, and the trundle bed had these weird little flaps on the end that would always just so it was super loud. I remember I was like, oh, and it felt super cold because I felt the metal on my leg and everything, and so that kind of startled me, and I like looked around, and then I looked down, and I was looking at myself. And I was like, oh, and I knew what it was. I mean, I was probably in my teen years. I can't remember how old I was, but I knew it was happening because my dad has had experiences with astral projection and things like that.
Yeah.
He's always warning against it.
Yes.
He said, if you're going to do it, sleep with a bright white light and on all of these different precautions and things like that. And so I was like, okay, like, I feel okay. I feel safe. I'm not feeling anything particularly scary at the moment. I'm just going to test the boundaries a little bit. And so I walked around the bed and I opened up my door, and it was so cold. Like, my room was warm, but the second I walked out into the hallway, it was like the temperature dropped. I could see my breath, and I was like, okay, this is getting a little strange. And I walked down, and again, it was just so real. I mean, I could feel the carpet underneath my feet. I could feel it when it changed to the wood floors. And I opened up my front door, and I was so confused. I didn't know what to do. I was like, do I just, like, go somewhere? Do I wish it? Like, how does this work?
Right.
And the second that I opened up the door and it felt even colder outside, I got this feeling of dread, and I was like, nope. And I just slammed the door, locked it, and I ran back into my room, and I basically like jumped back into my body.
Whoa.
And that was the one and only time that I am aware of that I have what I believe was astral projected.
Oh my God, Shelby, what the fuck? Oh my God, I have the worst chills. I just have the worst chills. Like, that's so terrifying that you like saw your breath.
So your turn.
Oh my God, no, yours is. It's crazy too how like similar but also different these are. Like, it's so strange. Like, okay, so mine was, again, I was staying the night, and for the listeners, I think maybe for 4 years of our life, between 8th grade and junior year, Shelby and I spent maybe 2 nights a week apart. Like, we were sleeping on each other's house on school nights. We were like constantly having sleepovers. So we were very like connected. Anyway, I was sleeping at your house, and I basically remember feeling almost like dizzy, but I was asleep. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden I was like blinking my eyes awake, but I was like levitating. And as I opened my eyes, oh God, I just get chills, man. I don't know. As I opened my eyes, I was looking down from that corner, the haunted corner, where we always saw stuff or we felt energy in your room, looking down at both of us sleeping. But it was like I was looking through like a greenish lens.
That's interesting.
Yeah, everything had sort of a foggy green tint. And I didn't feel like myself. I felt like I was the energy of somebody else watching us.
Oh.
Yeah. And it took like a lot of energy to try to like get back to me and slip out of whatever I was to get back into my own body. And I remember I woke up with a start. I was like, and you were like, oh my God, what? And I told you, and you were like, you need to tell my dad. And we went out because your mom wasn't there, and we went out and you were like, tell my dad. And I told him, and he was like, Courtney, you can't come over for a little while. Like, you need to take some time away.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh, and he's like, you're not in trouble, sweetheart. I just know about this, and that's not good. That's not good. And you were like, well, we weren't trying to do anything. And he's like, no, it's okay. Like, he was like very kind. But he talked with my mom too, and I was like, oh my God, are we in trouble? And you were like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what this is.
What's going on? Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't come back to your house for like maybe 9 days, which felt like an eternity when we were.
Eternity for us, yeah.
And I needed that break though, because that was so not of my own choice. Like, it really did feel like something else was in there. It was not good.
Oh, absolutely. And to me, I would have to look more into this. I'm sure there's more experts as to what this would be. It doesn't sound like astral projection so much as you jumping consciousness into somebody else.
Ooh. Oh my God, I have the worst chills. Ew, yeah, maybe. Maybe I like switched consciousness.
I know what you mean when you say you were dizzy, but you were asleep. I have gotten that so many times before.
Really?
But I've always been in my own body, and this is going into like totally different stories.
Love
and
it.
I think I told you about this last time I was in New York when I started having these dreams where I'd have to like jump back into my own body. But I would start seeing these things coming at me, and there would be one thing that was different in the room that triggered me to knowing that I was in a dream. But throughout those dreams, I always had this vertigo feeling. I always felt like I had just gotten whipped around several different times, and I was trying to walk straight.
Wow.
But as far as like the astral projection part of it goes, I don't, it's strange that you felt like you were somebody else, or that you weren't your own consciousness. That's what pulls me into believing. Again, more people would probably know a lot more about it.
Yeah, please write in. Tell us what's wrong with us, please, listeners.
Yes, if anybody has any experiences with this, especially when you talk about that green sheen to it. That throws me off too. Just everything about that. Because like I said, I felt when I astral projected, or what I think I astral projected, it was so real. I mean, it was one of those things where like I said, every little thing felt real. Like the texture of the cold metal hitting my leg and I was trying to scoot around your bed, and the doorknob opening. Every little thing felt like I was as I am today, standing here.
Yeah.
The only reason I knew that I was astral projecting was because I looked down and I saw myself sleeping. You know, my mouth was open and I was just like in a weird sprawled out position. And I was like, okay, that's really weird. That's the only thing that clued me. And then, of course, the temperature changed once I moved into the hallway, things like that. And then the general sense of dread that kept building the further away from my body I got. But I never felt like I was of a different being or consciousness or anything like that. So I almost feel like that was something entirely different.
Yeah, maybe a sprinkling of possession happening.
Maybe, but it's the opposite way.
Yeah.
If you were in that other person's consciousness, either that or they were swapped.
That's what I
projecting and somebody took over you for a moment.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking. And I think that's why your dad got scared, because I think of like the movie Insidious when he's lost in the cold area. It's because other things are trying to possess him. Mm-hmm. And it felt like I had been pushed out, almost like I was dizzy. Mm-hmm. And like that's why I was saying it was such a fight to get back into my own body. Like maybe something was starting to
weasel its way in there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Magic is real. In 1930 San Francisco, a supernatural world exists hidden within the mundane. Meet Norman P. Blank.
Hello.
As mundane as they get.
I'm a lawyer.
Quiet, you. Through a twist of fate, Norman is hurled headfirst into a world of magic, wonder, and danger. Will he survive? Probably not.
What?
I said quiet. Roll the tape.
You can't be pixies. They're not real.
Is this real?
I was just mugged by pixies.
It's Machina. David X Machina.
I am Lady Blackfreeze.
A pleasure to meet you, Mr. Blank. I'm the Lord of Ash and Shadow.
You ever wonder why egg salad is so stinky?
No, not
It's
really.
pixie farts. That's why.
Damn this drink well! That'll teach you to be dirty.
A floating skull is talking to me.
Just remember he's a friendly floating skull.
Even though the city is filled with magical creatures, they are absolute crap when it comes to paperwork.
That's where I can help.
Join us if you dare for a peek into the occult adventures of Norman P. Blank.
And that's the thing. You're not the only person. People, my best friend Rosalie, she is a hardcore skeptic. She doesn't believe any of that stuff, but she will always admit whenever she slept in my room, she slept weird. She had weird dreams. She had weird experiences. And she'd never like chalk it up to like it being a ghost or anything like that. But she would always say that she had the weirdest, strangest, most vivid dreams in my room.
Wow, that's cool. I didn't know that about Rosalie.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Again, yeah, she's like pretty much a hardcore skeptic, but there are certain things, again, like my mother, that you just kind of admit that was a little unexplainable. Okay, I'm not quite sure because I feel like for me personally, I pride myself on, for the most part, being logical and level-headed.
Right.
And that is how I approach any form of like ghost hunting, spiritual things, if I think it's going on. I always will do my best to debunk it in whatever way I can. And then I'll admit that that's what it is and things like that. And so it's funny when I see my more level-headed, non-believer people kind of going, okay, maybe.
Right. It's super validating. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a specific memory you have with or an instance that your mom and you witnessed something at the same time? Is there an instance you can recall to be like, well, that clearly was something, Mom? Like, is there anything like that?
Unfortunately, and since we've started speaking about this, I have been trying to rack my brain and think of something specific, and I cannot. My sister might remember something, but it always became kind of a joke in my house. It was like, oh, it was a ghost. Oh, it was the ghost. Yeah. And my mom would say that too. She kind of, in a way, she'd be mocking it and making fun of it. But there were certain times where she's like, oh, it was the ghost.
It was the ghost.
She's gotta, she's trying to joke about it, but she's also trying to wrap her head around what the hell just happened.
Right.
So I unfortunately at this moment cannot think of a specific time, but I know that it has happened.
That's okay. It's almost like when something happens so frequently, it seems so so average that you don't really like hold those occurrences in your head. Okay, I would love to ask you a little bit about, like you've mentioned a couple times, like ghost hunting. I know you've done it. We've ghost hunted a little bit in high school, but then you kind of went off and you kind of made a fun habit of it. Like what kind of things and when and where? Like, can you tell us about your ghost hunting experience?
So the thing that really kicked it off, I actually just more or less fell into it. I didn't mean for it to happen. It was right after senior year. So summer of senior year, graduated, we're free, we're no longer high schoolers, whatever. My best friend Michael, on a whim, was like, hey, I'm going up to Seattle for a couple weeks. You don't start your next job for a couple weeks. Do you want to go up there with me? And I was like, oh, like, I just got all this graduation money. Like, I kind of want to spend it on some fun stuff. Yeah, sure, I'll go up to Seattle with you. And so we road tripped up to Seattle. And it's interesting, in the East Coast podcast, you were talking about how, like, the trees and things just have this specific vibe to them on the East Coast. I feel the same way in Washington. I don't know if it's just because it's kind of just always dark and rainy, and the trees are just so beautifully dark green and dense and all of these things, but you feel it.
Right.
And so he was like, oh, we're going to stay at my aunt's condo in Port Townsend, Washington. And I was like, I've never heard of this place. Sure, let's go. So you have to take a ferry from Seattle to get to Port Townsend. And the condo was a little bit outside of the town. So we were driving in, and you come up and over this hill, and you just see this old port town. I mean, it looks like it's straight out of a Stephen King movie.
Wow.
That's the only way I can describe it. You can just feel how old it is. And so we were driving along, and I saw this clock tower. And it was just an old brick clock tower. But for some reason, I was like, I want to go there. Michael, like, go there. And this was before Google Maps was super accessible. You know, we were still working with Blackberries and things like that. It's not like, so we were just driving around this town trying to find this clock tower. And turns out it was a courthouse.
Oh.
And so I was there just taking photos. Michael had gotten this awesome new camera for his graduation gift. But, like, he was like, here, you're the photographer. Like, go ahead. So I, with no intention of ghost hunting whatsoever, was just taking pictures of this beautiful old building. And I snapped this picture of the glass doors that were leading up the stairs to the courthouse. And I looked down, and I just got this jolt of energy through me because what I saw in the camera. And my brain was trying to process it. I was like, there's no way that I just got this clearly. So I call Michael over, and I show him the picture. I don't say what it is. And he looks at it for a few seconds, and he looks at me. His whole face is white. And all he does is just go, no. And he just runs. I'm like, where are you going? The car's that way. Like, he just runs. And we're with his cousins and everything else. And I'm just staring at this photo, and it is just a photo of a man in a suit.
Yes.
And you can see the suit very clearly. That's the most corporal part of him as far as that goes. And you can tell it's got the lapels and everything, and it looks like a tall, very broad man. You can't really see, you can see the outline of the head, but it's not like you can see details in the face or anything like that.
Right.
So immediately I'm excited. I'm stoked. I'm not freaked out by any means. I am like, oh my God, I can feel it. This town is so haunted. Like, let's go. And so again, this was no intention to go ghost hunting. And then Michael immediately was like, okay, I'm cool. Let's do this. Like, this is really cool.
That's so funny.
And his cousins are looking at us like, what the hell is wrong with the two of you? You know, like, what is going on? They saw the pictures. They saw it. They couldn't deny it. Like, they're like, oh my gosh. And so, this was also like 12 years ago. So if the details are a little bit murky, but long story short, started looking into like the history of Port Townsend and everything like that. It's an old shipping town. And there's a lot of, like, it was basically like the Virginia City of the Puget Sound.
Right.
So it had, you know, the brothels, the saloons, the mercantile, stuff like that. There was a lot of stuff going on. And it was also a town that was known for Shanghai men, which if you don't know what that is, it's basically people would, if you had too good of a night at the bar, you were a little too drunk, or they would drug these men and they would Shanghai them into service, which means they would wake up on a ship one day and be pressed into service and forced to serve out their service with this crew because they were stuck on a ship in the middle of the ocean now.
What?
So it's a very interesting town. But then Michael was like, oh, there's Fort Worden. And Fort Worden, that was built in 1902.
Wow.
And so it went through some training and everything like that for World War II, things like that. But Fort Worden is basically just this massive, massive, now a state park, but it has all these underground bunkers.
Right.
And so we went there at night. We had our headlamps, everything on. I had my little recorder thing. We had the camera and stuff like that. And we're going down into these bunkers. Some of them you literally have to climb like an old ladder down. Some of them are stairs and everything. It is so dark in them, and it's pitch black, and it's an oppressive energy. That's the only way I can put it. Like, you were underground, you were in these tunnels. It looks like every other Travel Channel show, anything like that. There's graffiti all over the walls.
Right.
And there's just things that are just discarded all over the place. So there's an old mattress that only has the springs left that are rusting now, and all of these things. And it's such an interesting, eerie feeling to try to imagine it as an active military bunker. And there's a lot of different lore around whether it was haunted, things like that. But again, for as far as energy goes, like, these men were here to train before going and being shipped off to World War II.
Yeah, it's got to be very severe, very regimented, and kind of negative.
Absolutely. And again, these bunkers, like, they're pretty small. They're not these huge, massive things. And just the way that some of it is just left in disrepair while other parts of it are a little bit more kept up. It's so interesting the way that time has more or less encroached into these places.
Yeah.
There's also rumors of like Satan worshiping practices, things like that, and which would be very easy to do, completely honestly, because you have to hike up these hills. You're down in the middle of the dark. Like I said, there's graffiti everywhere. There's 666. There's pentagrams. There's things like that. So there's a lot of like negative energy as well.
I said the perfect place for Satan.
Yes, exactly. So we went with that same group of people. And one thing that, like, everybody's kind of always interested in ghost hunting. A lot of people are like, ooh, like, that sounds fun. That sounds spooky. Like, let's go see a ghost,
Yeah.
And so we were with a larger group. And my biggest pet peeve is that nobody ever shuts up. And it's like, guys, like, if we want to hear anything, if we want to be able to record anything, if your voices are the only thing we can hear, then it's going to be very hard to discern whether or not we captured anything.
Right.
So long story short, when you're in there, it's a huge bunker, so it just echoes. It's So I decided, y'all are being too loud for me. Let me jump ahead a little bit. Let me just try to like do my own thing for a moment. And as I was walking through, there was this room that I could see ahead, and there was this metal door that was on one hinge, but was kind of just falling over. And I entered the room, and as I looked up, about to walk over the door, I just saw this huge black shadow just race across the ceiling and go back behind me.
Whoa.
And whenever I get scared, I don't scream.
I know. You brace.
If it's truly scary, my eyes start to water for whatever reason.
Yep.
I don't cry, but my eyes just glass over, and immediately I just got full body chills. I got this feeling of dread, and my eyes just started watering.
Yeah.
And I just backed up, and there was an exit. If I would have stepped over that door, there was an exit right there that I could have taken. But something told me, like, do not go past this door. Do not step into this room. Do not cross this threshold.
Wow.
And so I turned around, and I was walking, and Michael saw me, and he knew immediately something had just happened. And he's like, well, let's just go. We can go up that way. And I'm like, Michael, we're not going back that way. We're going all the way back from the way we came. Like, I do not want to do this. And we're walking back. When we went and listened to the EVPs, you hear a woman's voice, which I found very strange, because you would have thought it would have been very heavily male in the military bases, bunkers, things like that. So I don't know why she was there. I don't know if she was just a protective spirit or what was going on. But you hear her in the EVP. She goes, hurry, run. And then you hear me, and you can hear in the EVP, you can hear my voice or my shoes shuffling, and you can hear me kind of, my breath is a little bit ragged because I'm like, holy crap, what did I just see? And behind me, you can hear laughing. And it's just literally like the most stereotypical, maniacal, like just, I mean, it was yeah, whatever went past, ran back behind me, that's what was just kind of laughing at me. And I don't know if it was just trying to scare me, because it definitely wasn't. Whenever I get done with ghost hunting, it's one of those things before we go back to the car, before anybody's allowed to leave, I say, hey, nothing is allowed to follow us. Your energies are not welcome, whatever. Like, try to stop any sort of weird attachments, things like that. Just being cautious. And so, yeah, that was the biggest experience we had at Fort Worden.
Oh, my God.
We also went to the cemetery in Port Townsend. That memory is a little shaky. I know that we did get an EVP of a little boy.
Oh, wow.
I would have to ask Michael what exactly it said if he remembers. But we did get an EVP there as well. But to this day, I've never gotten photo evidence like I did in the courthouse in Port Townsend.
Yeah, I can attest for the listener. I saw it when they got back, and I mean, it's sad because I wish I could show you all, but it is truly some of the best photographic proof of a spirit I've ever seen. Like, you know for sure that's not a living person because of the transparency of like the head area, but it is a full suit of and it's, you know, it's just a little bit that what is the word? Opacity. I always say it wrong.
Opacity.
Thank you.
You're saying it right, and then you're second guessing yourself.
I am. You're right. You know, but it's just like turned down a little bit, and it's like, damn, it's just so clearly a ghost. Like, it was a phenomenal photo you got.
And again, that's why I said I more or less fell into the ghost hunting, and it gets addicting, because it's one of those things where, I guess to a certain extent, you feel kind of special because you are able to experience these things that not a lot of people are able to.
Right.
And you want to keep going. And it's definitely a high. Like I said, instead of it scaring me and me running away, I just got this huge jolt of energy through my entire body going, holy crap, this is going on. Like, this is what happened. And that led into other little ghost hunting things here and there. And I'm always, you know, more or less open to it. I do want to say, I can't remember which episode it was, but you said that I stayed at the Stanley Hotel. I did not stay at the Stanley Hotel, unfortunately.
What is it?
I did go to the Stanley Hotel, but what you're thinking of is I stayed on the Queen Mary.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Why did I think? Okay, but did you do a ghost tour at the Stanley Hotel?
Yes, I did. I did go to the Stanley Hotel. I did do the ghost tour.
You just didn't stay there.
It is very expensive. And if you want to stay in the room that Stephen King had all the experiences, if you want to stay in 217, especially on Halloween night, that books out for over a decade.
Oh my God, I bet. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
listeners,
if I ever run into some extra cash, I will definitely be staying there. But I have not experienced that yet, but I did go to the Stanley Hotel.
Can you share, I know, like, I remember it was a little bit of a letdown, but can you share a little bit of that experience of getting to see that?
The Stanley or the Queen Mary?
The Stanley.
The Stanley, it wasn't a letdown necessarily. The only thing is, so when you talk about spiritual things and stuff like that, I truly believe that, yes, there are going to be certain times that these spirits will present themselves to you. But when you're on a tour, it's broad daylight. There's people shuffling and moving everywhere. There's people telling the same stories over and over again. I just don't think that is prime time for activity. And we were there for a very short amount of time. We drove up to Estes Park from Denver really quickly. We said, let's do the ghost tour, and we only have a certain amount of time until we have to return our rental car.
Yeah.
And so it was a very quick, very short trip. We got to go on the ghost tour. You can feel things there for sure. I mean, there's no doubt about it. There's definitely just the energy about it. And one of the things is what it's built on. I can't remember what type of rock. I think it's quartz that the foundation is built on.
Okay.
And so that in itself, any sort of natural conductor of energy will, have this effect. The Stephen King story was very similar to the Shining story that he wrote. Was one night he got caught in a snowstorm with his wife, and he needed a place to stay. It was the very last day of the season, so he was the only one in the hotel. And he had some weird experiences, some of it imagined, some of it not. They also said that he was a raging alcoholic at the time, so you don't know what types of things he actually experienced versus didn't. But there's all kinds of pictures that you can just look up on the internet of the different ghosts and things like that. One of the interesting ones is the staircase leading up to the rooms. There's one with like a little girl standing there. That's definitely not there. And they say that area is kind of a vortex.
Ooh.
So any of these places that are very known to be haunted are like the vortexes, things like that, like on the Queen Mary as well.
Yeah.
There's definitely a vortex there, no doubts about it.
Okay, yeah. Can you get into that a little bit? So you actually slept on the Queen Mary.
Yes. So I've had several different experiences with the Queen Mary. I absolutely love the Queen Mary. I think it is just the most alluring ship.
To hear Shelby's stories about the famously haunted Queen Mary, check out episode 12, part 2, which is up right now. See you there. Bye. Thanks so much for listening. Remember, you are not alone if you've ever heard a bump in the night or caught something out of the corner of your eye. There are countless others who experience things they can't explain. And this podcast is your safe place to listen and share. Also, I want to remind everyone that this show is for entertainment purposes. I am not a professional paranormal investigator. I did not go to school to study this. I can only speak about my first-hand experiences. And with that, I'd love to mark the importance of spiritual inclusion. Your thoughts, ideas, and theories about the other side are welcome. And we know that so much of our common knowledge and perception about the paranormal stems from historical and cultural experiences. So we are open to your knowledge and understanding of things that we may be ignorant about or not fully understand. Let's learn and grow together. Stay spooky, and we'll see you next time. Hey ghoul friends, got a spooky story to share? Well, I want to hear about your haunts. Whether you've seen a ghost or something unexplainable, send your supernatural experiences to us at jauntyhaunts@gmail.com. That's JAUNTYHAUNTS@gmail.com. Or DM us on Instagram at jauntyhauntspod. That's jauntyhaunts.pod. You can also find us on TikTok and YouTube under Jaunty Haunts Podcast. I want to hear from you.